And we are live. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this morning's edition of the Breakfast Soul Convos. And today I've got on the other side of the line a pianist, singer, composer, songwriter, and a general badass musician, Thandi Ntuli. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you, Thandi?
Thanks for having me, Lizzo. Thank you. I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, I mean it's cold today. Yeah, man. Was it?
It's very cold. It's very cold. But
Yeah, we gotta do what we gotta do. I saw someone's tweet earlier today talking about he's a guitarist and he was saying he doesn't know how people in colder cities deal with just warming up for gigs in a time like this, as a guitarist because your fingers are there.
yeah, no, it's very cold.
Mm. Anyway, I want to ask you, well, start by saying, do you find it limiting for people to now call you, especially now, call you a jazz musician, because yes, your thing is jazz, but I've seen you collaborating with many other artists, myself included. You've done something that's kind of hip hop ish, but is it limiting for you to be labeled as a jazz musician now?
It's a good question. I have actually been in the process of um reevaluating that, because I think what you call yourself is kind of like what you feel you fit into, And I don't think, jazz is my box. I think, many people don't know that my first love is house music, and that I've always had an interest in making music. Jazz was for me a way to learn how to write music, to learn more about music. It was a reference point, and I think it will always be something that I reference from strongly because I love the music. But I think I'm moving towards a place where I'm starting to be okay with letting the word jazz go.
And
Yeah.
is it do you think it's still important for musicians or aspiring musicians to seek the formal way of learning music? Like you went through, you've had music all of your life, since you were 5, but you went to UCT and you
Mhm.
studied music there, thoroughly. So is it still important for musicians to seek the formal music education?
Look, I don't think formal education is necessarily important other than the fact that it gives you a structure of learning, and it gives you access to a bit of a network. So for me, when I was at university, the people who are doing great things in the industry in jazz right now were my classmates and my peers. And having those connections are really useful and great in the long run. But I think studying music, even if you go to an institution, or you're a DJ who decides they want to become a DJ, and so they're going to study every DJ they like, and they're going to learn about what they do, and they're going to, whatever it is, however your process is, I think it's still studying. Um, I think there's a problem if you decide I'm going to become a DJ and you think being a DJ is just putting the CD inside. But I think studying something doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to university for it.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. I love that. And I mean, I want to get to this question about UCT because you've obviously studied there, like we said, and for a long time, and probably still the case, this UCT music school has been a prestigious one and considered like kind of one of the biggest cultivators, if I may put it like that, when it comes to jazz musicians in the past. But that wasn't necessarily your reason for enrolling at UCT, right?
No, not at all. No, not at all. I went to UCT because I was picking the place that was far from home. So I even remember in matric when I was doing my applications for university, I just did UCT, and then my parents are like, no, you can't apply for one place. You have to try other places. So I was like, okay, fine. Then I applied for Takis and Wits. But it was because, you know, it was because they said I must do it. UCT as a music school has had a lot of amazing, amazing musicians go there. Um, but again, I also don't like subscribing to the idea that an institution is better than another one, because I also feel UKZN has had incredible artists coming from there. You know, I just think that it actually has more to do with the students who are going to that place that influence a specific time. And sometimes you're lucky. I think I was lucky. I got there at a time when there was just like a lot of really good musicians who were pushing themselves and reaching. And I think there are always periods like that at different institutions. So yeah, I don't also subscribe to the fact that UCT is the best music school in the country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I wanna share. Well, if you could share a story about your uncle. Well, let me share the story. So your late uncle Selby Fikile Ntuli, he was the
Mm.
leader for the band Harari, and yeah, you shared a heartwarming story about him on your Instagram right lately. And music, I mean, has always been a part of your life, and you grew in music. I've been to your house. I saw your dad's records. So you've
Thanks.
always been in this space, right? Um, but I want to ask you: Have your parents ever been unsettled with you being a musician?
For sure. Not so much my mother, but my father. But I completely understand. I mean, when he was younger, he was actually helping his younger brother in the music industry. And at the time when they were operating, they didn't have the luxuries we have of the internet and being able to be independent. So they were completely reliant on record labels. And this is an old story of record labels not really giving artists their due and all those things. So he was very close to big artists at the time and seeing the struggles that they went through and seeing the environment of the music industry. I think if I was a parent, I would also, and had seen that, I would have also been a little bit apprehensive of my child getting into the industry. It wasn't so much because he didn't think I could be a musician. It was just, I think, more his exposure to the environment. But he said many times, he sometimes is like, you guys have figured this thing out much better, because he can see that, you know, somehow today we have a little bit more ability of doing things in a way that we want to do them, because we don't rely 100% on record labels.
Yeah, and I wanna ask you about a point because with while your parents still had those kind of let me say conflicting views, not really sure, but also they're allowing you to go study this music thing, but you had to get to a point where you are kind of proving yourself and proving to yourself that you're not gonna ask for help from your parents. I remember you told me a story about like how you were so broke. You didn't know how you're gonna pay for rent, and if you could share that story and something came up, that changed everything.
Yeah, sure. There's been there's been so many of those. But I remember I was in Cape Town. I think I was, yeah. And I was very broke. Like I'd said, I was on my last packet of lentils, and I was just like, you know, and I think whilst I was still in Cape Town, I was still managing this thing of trying to pay my bills. So like I do little jobs here and there, and also hating those jobs and trying to find a way to have the energy and time to put into music. Um, and then this one day, so I'm making my last packet of lentils. Akna chelete. I don't have a plan, yeah, chelete. And then my friend calls me and says, "Oh, I'm around the corner. Can I come by?" So I'm like, "Sure, come through." She comes through. Hagena, she smells the lentils. She's like, "Yo," and I'm so hungry. So that packet of lentils that was supposed to be like for today, tomorrow, and the next now I have to share it with this person. And I was like, oh my God. Like, but you can't say no. Obviously, if you're eating, someone comes to your home, you can't say, okay, no, and not eat the food. So I dished out for her, fine, Radula sharp. When she left, I was like, oh my God. Anyway, went to bed. The next day, I got called. Someone needed help with recording something, and then they were going to give me some cash. So for me, I think my journey coming to this point in my career, I've learned a lot about faith, and about just believing that something's gonna come up.
Mm,
um, Especially because there have been many times like that when you just don't know where at all, and you just hate that feeling of phoning, go hi, and you're like, ish, can I please just, I'll pay you back. It's not a nice feeling, because I also knew that feeling. It's not so much about asking, but also the anxiety it causes your parents, how when you keep phoning them for money.
mm,
So, but yeah, it taught me a lot about faith, and I think it's something I needed to learn, because I needed to learn, especially in this industry, I needed to learn that I don't need to depend on people. Like, I don't need to be desperate for people's um, approval,
mm.
if that makes sense. And that's given me a very empowered stance in the industry, because I've only worked with people that, I mean, not only, but I've mainly continued working relationships with people who I've felt a mutual respect with. Um, like, I don't mind if you are a superstar, as long as I feel that we're both in this with a lot of respect. I've preferred those kind of environments, because they're good for my energy in terms of creating as well.
Yeah. And I've got a clip from one of your co-collaborators, dope musician. Let me play it for you, and then we'll chat again.
Hey, it's Shane Cooper here, aka Cardone Spokes, and I just want to say working with Thandi Ntuli is always incredible. She's a national treasure, one of our greatest songwriters, pianists, musicians, singers. Really phenomenal, always shining and always giving in her music. I'm so happy to know her, and I'm so happy to have been able to work with her.
Yeah.
Oh, Shane, thank you. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday to Shane.
Happy birthday, Shane Cooper. Yeah, I mean, I know he's also done collaborations with Jazzwell, and he's done
Yes.
something. I'm talking just in the house scene with Kid Funk as well.
Yeah.
But what is it about collaborations, like that? What do you take in regards to? I mean, I've collaborated with a lot of people, but it's not everyone that I feel like I will always go back and collaborate
Yeah.
with. What is your view with regards to collaboration?
Collaboration is one of those things that if you get it right, it's magic. I think you'll understand that. And it depends on different artists. I think some people, they like collaborating in a copy and paste way. And for me, I'd rather work with someone who has a dope energy, and who's very talented, who's willing to try things, because the collaborative space, like, I mean, creating music is very personal. And so you need two people who are able to, or two, or who, however many people are collaborating, who are able to make room and say, okay, maybe not my idea, let's take yours, whatever. You can't have people who are like, it must be like this. I don't enjoy that kind of collaboration. So for me, it's very important for people's egos just to be in check. It's more about the people really than it's about um, how how dope you are at music. I've found that, because I think the music does the job itself.
Mm,
Um, if you are dope, whatever you do, uh, and someone else is a dope this, but you both have egos, when you come together, doesn't matter how dope you both are. It's terrible. But if you come together and you're just talented and you love what you do and you make room for other people's ideas, I think it's wonderful.
I actually love that that point because I've spoken with Ralph about collaborating, and I remember him saying to me, he would rather work with kind of like an an a musician who's talented but is not necessarily like a superstar talent, just on the basis of the work is easier, the work is seamless, and the focus is more on the work than on personalities, and I took that to heart as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanna play as well now a another clip. You won't be able to see it, but you'll hear from our collaborations. We were working right here in this room. I think it was 20.
Yeah.
I think it was 2018. Let's play it, and then we'll chat a bit. Synth bass.
Yeah.
Cool.
I just don't know how to play.
Check it out.
Not that one.
Yeah.
Hell to the motherfucker. Hell to the no. Woo.
Yeah. So this was we
Yo,
were.
Jose. Woo, shrimp.
So I mean, this is our pre-production process. We were working on a remix for Fly Away, which we never got to finish. But I was talking to Ayanda the other day. We're actually reworking it for a new song now. But yeah, I want to know from your view, like just looking in hindsight of the creation that we worked on, moving circles, yourself, me, and Simpiwe. You were heavily involved in that project. What is your view, just with the journey that we encountered with moving circles?
I learned so much from that process. It was an overload. You asked me to jump on as a co-producer, and I was like, hey, I've never produced before, but okay, let's jump in. I think I again, it was also for me an environment where I hadn't been used to working with someone else in terms of making up a song, and it was interesting for me to like a lot of my songs, if you listen to my music, a lot of songs are my perspectives. So it's a completely different practice to write from someone else's perspective. You trying to make someone else's story come to life. And that requires a lot of attention to that person. And again, that thing of saying, Emanyane, with your ideas of how things should be. Let the story be what tells itself. And just in terms of how we were working, because usually, I don't know if people know this, but usually it started with a beat. Sometimes it was a beat and you already had a bit of keys or a bass line that you wanted to expand on. And the song hadn't been written yet. There were no lyrics. The singer hadn't put vocals. So in that situation, again, we were also still not sure about where the song is going to go, what the song is about. But what I appreciated is that once we got vocals in situations where we could find that, hey, you would be like, hey, I don't think this bass line works. Can we try another one? Or, hey, something's missing. You know what I mean? So again, that process taught me that it's still always the music that matters, even if it's a very different process of writing than what I'm used to. At the end of the day, the song is the thing that is the most important element of all. So even if our first idea that we liked very much was this beat with this keyboard progression, once the singer comes and tells the story, then we're like, the story needs this or it needs that to come out, you know. And I think that it reminded me that in music to just stay open. And it's funny because I think when you're a jazz musician, you tend to think that because of how jazz is, it's got lots of improvising and freedom, we think that other styles of music are locked in, you know. But again, it also taught me that the improvising comes in different ways and making space comes in different ways than it does in jazz, but it's still there. Yeah.
I love that. And I mean, like, for me, that project is a very special one, you know,
Yeah.
it was my debut project, and I'm very happy with how it came out, you know.
Did
And
a great job,
we,
by the way. Yeah.
we did do a great.
It's a timeless album.
Yeah, I hope that, I mean, it's almost like a mind F, you know, because now working on new material, I mean, for the longest of time, I think that project haunted me, you know, because I loved it so much, and I felt like, damn, how am I gonna surpass this, you know? But my mind is different right now because I just wanna reflect, you know, make music that reflect my time right now, you know. But I
Yeah.
want to ask you about, we did a few performances with Moving Circles, and how did you find the energy, you know, with the band and everybody that we were playing with?
Again, you see, I think that's the gift you had as well as a producer is knowing how to choose people, you know. Um, when we performed live, most of the people, except for Sims, who I'd known, and Ayanda, who I'd known, most of the people were new to me. But everybody, you know, the same energy that went into every song and the same ability to have all these different elements working as though we've been working together for a long time, that same energy was there outside. And for me, that made me just aware that you also have a process of working with people that is very particular. It's not just "Hey, I need a guitar player, hey, I need a singer, I need a. You chose people based on what you chose them for, but they worked. When we came together for live, some of us didn't know each other. But the music again was the most important element. That was magical to experience as well.
And I want to ask you about your stage performances. Like, what is it about you being on stage? What do you love the most about stage performance?
Such an emotional question at this time. Oh my goodness. I don't think I'll ever like take for granted being on stage after this. But I realized that what I really love about being on stage is the exchange of energy, not just with the musicians but with the audience. And truly and honestly, I mean, I haven't performed everywhere in the world, but in some places that I've performed, I've always missed the audience at home because you know, South Africans' love for music is expressed externally. It's like it's in our bodies and it's felt. I remember when we were at the Joy of Jazz, when we were performing with the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, and I was saying to some of the players when I spoke to them, just wait till you come to South Africa because you're gonna see how they're gonna, and they didn't get it, you know, but so many people were very emotional playing for our audience because of the way the audience really appreciated them so much. So for me, I really love the feedback from the audience mixed with the feedback from other people in the band. I just love all the things that you can't anticipate that happen on stage.
And you seem to have like, I mean, I love the camaraderie that I see with a lot of jazz musicians, you know, or at least that I've seen in South Africa. And you would have this person playing for you on your band, but you can also feature as a pianist for someone else. Who are some of the band members that you really really almost always want to have on your band?
The ones that I have.
Yeah, the
The
ones
ones
the ones that you like. Okay, I need to have this guy every time I perform on my band. Yeah.
the ones that I have. I mean, it's been a process getting to this point, but if when I call people for, and the thing is also the band is very busy. Hey, so Pelelo as a drummer, for example, it's just like when I call him about a gig, I'm anxious because I'm like, "Ish, he better not be busy, this guy, you know." But every single person in the band, we've gotten to where we are because um, it's been a process over years to put together these people and who works well with each other. So when one of them is not available, I'm already like heartbroken. Not because there are no good people to replace them, but simply because the sound of the band is not just my music. I don't write the actual sound of the band on paper. When I write, the thing that makes it come alive is the musicians, the energy they have with each other, and their particular styles.
Mm. I've got one of a clip from one of those musicians. Let me
Hey,
let me.
private investigator.
Yeah, we are doing our job. We are doing our job. Yeah. Let me play it for you. Then we'll chat afterwards.
What's up? This is bass player, composer Benjamin Jafter. So I've been working with Thandi since I was in my second year at university, I guess. I think I was there from the start of a first trio. I'm very aware of how Thandi likes to work. I think working with Thandi is always a great experience. I feel very comfortable. I feel like also very excited when I hear she has some new music because I feel like she writes for players in mind. Um, I am always inspired by her work ethic and also just how much she has grown over time. Not only musically, but also when it comes to the type of compositions she writes. I think her sound has definitely developed over time, even when she started singing more in a band. So I'm very grateful to have known her, and it's one of my most cherished, I guess, professional relationships I have. Yeah.
Oh, Benji. Yeah.
I was happy that you introduced me to him because he played on, I think, two songs on Moving Circles, I Fly
Mhm.
Away as well as Arrival, you know, which I really I mean, it's one of those relationships as well. We started that. I think moving forward on the next project, if I have a live bass, I know there's somebody who can connect with the music like that, you know.
Oh,
I want us to just get into Arrival, if you don't mind showing us or playing us a bit the progression from that song.
sure, no problem. Hey, sorry, I'm gonna give you my back a little.
No worries. Why? Sorry, before you do, why do pianists always perform in that posture on stage and not looking or not facing the crowd?
It's a big instrument. You mean pianist or keyboard player? Look, the piano is big, so hey man, that thing is difficult to when you turn it around. Everybody on stage is now needs to be in different places. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Great, bro. Actually, you just gave me a point that I wanted to jump on. Do you think that an album like Moving Circles, okay, maybe not that album, but our kind of work and the way we do what we do, can this house thing live in a jazz space?
Yes, everything is possible. Especially if it's musical. Um, and it's very musical. This project, that's why I say it's a timeless project, because it's not, there's music in it, there's variation, there's so much there that it can be transferred into a jazz space. If you remember jazz music, like just a little bit of a history insert,
Okay.
a lot of jazz music and jazz standards, what became jazz standards over time, were songs that were popular. Um, you know, songs that went from like maybe Broadway, or songs that were popular music that got put into the jazz space. Like John Coltrane plays My Favorite Things, which is a song from a musical, and it becomes jazz. So for me, I think if it has a melody and it has definite harmony, it can definitely go into the jazz space.
Sure. I know. I'm gonna look into that. Rabakena, 2021. We are
Yeah,
going there.
yeah, within.
Yeah. So in 2018, you won the Standard Bank Young Artist of the Year. How did that impact your career, firstly, and secondly, how has your relationship with Standard Bank grown over the years, over the 2 years?
It was such an interesting time. It felt like there were different roads crossing at the same time. Um, the award came just as I was finishing my second album, and I actually remember that because I found out a little bit earlier than the announcement. They let you know a little bit earlier than the announcement, and I was busy preparing for a release in 2017. I decided to move my release a little bit later. And just those two roads coming together for me, I think it was like a springboard for my career, because it was I mean, it's a very prestigious award. If you look at the past winners, and unfortunately there's more people that still deserve it, but if you look at the people who have won it in the past,
Who
it's
are
an
some of those
incredible.
people that won in the past before you?
Some of them is a huge hero of mine, Andile Yanana. Mams Bongile Kumalo is also a past winner. Mark Franzman, Kyle Shepard, Benjamin Jefter that you heard there, Shane Cooper as well, Okani Daya, Duduzo Makatini, Sia Makuzeni, lots, both from the old school and new school, like heavyweights. So for me, I was just taken aback that they chose me for the award. I suppose when you win an award, you always feel like, sure, me. You could have chosen five other guys. But I appreciated that it was affirmation not only from Standard Bank, but also from my peers, because they do get some input, I think, from your peers. And the relationship has grown in such that I think Standard Bank has a policy with that award, that once you're a Standard Bank award winner, even as an alumni, for whatever projects they do, they will involve their past winners. They currently have an online series called Standard Bank Home Studio, because now people can't perform. They've been supporting artists in that way, and I think they've done so much to show that kind of support that they have for the arts, even in this time when artists are complaining about not even getting an email from DAC, but Standard Bank is doing their bit to support artists that they have a connection with. So I think that's great.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I mean, the music has kind of taken the back seat in all of this mess that we find ourselves in with COVID-19, you know. But it's companies like Standard Bank and other organizations that are really trying to get money into artists' pockets, you know, by way of performing or other ways, you know, projects and stuff and things like that. And I really commend that. I just hope that there were more um, organizations, you know, in our country that support the arts like that. And I want to get into you had a residency at Switzerland. In Switzerland, I've seen many other South African artists performing in Switzerland. And, you know, I remember before you went there, I was like, let's do some music before you go. Because once you go, I don't know if we'll work again. And like, not only did you not have time when you were there, but you were there for longer than you thought you would. How did you get that gig, and what is it about Switzerland and the way they support the arts?
So there's an organization called Pro Helvetia. I'm glad you asked this question, because if there's any artists listening, and it's not necessarily musicians who play an instrument, you can be a DJ, you can be a painter. If you are in the arts, just look them up. But Pro Helvetia has a call for residencies every year. You can choose between 2 weeks to 3 months, and I chose 3 months because remember when I said when I went to university, I just looked at the place that's far from home. So I think at the time I also just needed I needed time out from Joburg. Um, and so what you do with the application, you write a proposal for a project that you are looking to work on, and they actually give artists the time to tap out of the day-to-day things, like having to get a gig, paying bills, whatever, and then they sort of support you for the time that you're there, and you're able to just write with like the freedom of mind. Suffice it to say that when I went there, my plans were completely different to what they were in the proposal, but that's okay as well, because they do make room for people trying different things. I think the magic of my particular trip was that I was very, very lucky to be assisted by a gentleman who generally books South African jazz artists. He works at the University of Basel, but he's been helping South African artists book tours in Switzerland since the days of Abu Brazim Ngawana. So he helped me set up some dates. I was able to perform both in Basel, where I was based, and other surrounding cities in Switzerland. I was able to meet a lot of Swiss musicians. And the beauty of that is, again, it's networking, it's forming relationships, where I've gotten I've gotten requests to collaborate on different songs, some that don't even include jazz. Whilst I was there, I recorded with a friend of mine who was writing a song for a film. So those are opportunities in different markets, and just being in a place, and unlike social media, finding someone, being in a place, again, like we said with collaborations, you get to meet people, and you figure out who your energy works with, and then things come out of that. We also recorded a project with Shane as well, that's going to be coming out later this year, a jazz quartet, which was a really cool project for me to be a part of. And I think in the long run, it's just more relationships, more opportunities to connect and make music.
And what are some of the things that you learned in your experience in Switzerland that kind of opened up your eyes to, okay, there's another way of doing this in ways that they do what they do, and in just your experience in totality?
The experience was a very interesting one, because I think the thing I experienced the most was myself. I was alone most of the time. Obviously, I don't know the places, I don't know the people. and people have got their own schedule. So even the musicians I knew, it's not like I could be your tail and everywhere you are, I'm there. And, hey, it's me again. I'm like, oh God, this South African girl. No. But I had time to myself, and things. I appreciate that time because I left just after an incredibly busy year. Like it was 2018 was so busy, and um I hadn't had the time to think about where I want to go artistically, what I want to do. Things like, the jazz musician title, am I still okay with it? Those are things that you start to really reflect on, and you start to really engage with yourself and find out if you as an artist are going this way or that way or both ways or whatever. So that's the first thing that was very important for me from that, was just time to myself, to ask myself very important questions about my career and music and my thoughts around all of that. The second thing, I suppose, is, wow, the work ethic. I was blown away. No, people have serious work ethic. They're like, no, no, for real. I mean, I think we are hardworking too. But wow, yeah, people work hard. um, yeah, people are just like, whoa, it's unbelievable. But I think it's also that thing of, there are many musicians, and there is a very solid infrastructure in the arts. So there are many ways that you can plug yourself in and do something artistic. I think that's what it is.
Mm. And after Switzerland, you went on to perform in America at the prestigious Jazz at Lincoln Center with the legendary trumpeter Wynton Marsalis, which is amazing. Like, how was that experience for you?
That was crazy. The US was a huge surprise for me. And I mean a surprise because I've never been a person who's like, yo, I want to go to America. You know, I think because there's been no mystery around it for me. So America's been on the TV, on the radio. You know everything about American culture from what we experience here in South Africa. We grew up watching Martin Lawrence, and like, we know America from that view, and it's always made me feel like there's nothing that I don't know that I need to learn. However, I went there and I had more fun than I think I've ever had in my life, in LA particularly. Um, and once I got to New York was a very different experience. New York is very busy. I don't know how people live there. It's a great city, but it's very fast, very, very, very fast. Um, and there was high pressure, I think, for me, with thinking about, yo, this is the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, and this is Wynton Marsalis, and I am playing with them, not like in the room next door. So I was extremely like aware, and I had this like nervousness that I hadn't had in a long time. But I recognized that same nervousness when I first came to Joburg, and then I'm working with Marcus White, and it's like, oh my God, I think it was just, for me, it was an indicator that I'm in a new place. And the experience of hearing I think my music arranged uh, was probably the most humbling thing for me, because what the Lincoln Center is, it's musicians, but they're also arrangers, and they encouraged to arrange music that they play. So they were doing the South African songbook, which was famous South African jazz songs, and obviously they couldn't cover everything, but they also included some of our own works. And it was really, really, really humbling to hear the arrangement of my own song, I
Mm.
think. Yeah.
And after playing really all the important jazz festivals in South Africa, Cape Town Jazz Fest, Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, so many more. Like you've played almost all the festivals in South Africa when it comes to jazz, and you've now gotten your foot into the international scene, with Switzerland, with America as well. Um, what's the next thing for you with regards to performing?
Ah, nice question.
Thank
Hey,
you, thank
chap,
you.
you're good at this thing. uh, the next thing is governed by the music that I'm. I think currently I'm always working on music, but I think my next project is slowly taking a little bit of shape. I say slowly because I know these people on social media who are gonna say, "When's the next album coming out?" But yeah, the next album is taking shape, and obviously, I think my desire as an artist is to share my music with all the audiences. So I still haven't touched Asia as a continent. I haven't even scraped the surface of Europe. I mean, I was in Switzerland, but I haven't performed in many places. There's still some amazing festivals that I'd like to perform at. South America as well. I haven't been. Africa, definitely. I've been to Kenya, to the Safaricom Jazz Festival, which was amazing. But I haven't performed my own work there, and I definitely want to connect with audiences on the continent a lot more as well. So I think it's limitless. As much as I've performed at these places, I still have so many wishes to perform for more audiences and to share those spaces with more people.
Yeah. So we're getting to closer to the closing, but I want to ask you about meeting icons. Like I remember the first time when I met Monique Bingham. It was like, yo, I had a big groupie moment. And actually, even even when I met Zoe Mudicha for the first time, I couldn't even talk. I remember my girlfriend was like, "Are you crazy? Are you crazy?" I met I met her at in a pharmacy close by where I stayed. But you as an artist, you've met so many dope artists and a lot of legendary ones. Who are some of those that you met where you were like, oh my goodness, am I meeting this person?
Yay! I'm telling you, there are people I've met where it's just been like, yes, yes. Um, I think the first time I met Thandi as well, I nearly fainted. I was like that, where she's like, it was at the auditions for her all woman band, and she was meeting all of us, and I was just like, I was like a mouse, you know. I was like, hey, someone, she was definitely
Where was it? Do you remember when?
baseline. Yeah, baseline. I was doing the auditions, and at the time, her band was, well, it still is, but the jazz band was the panel. So Nduduza Makatini was there, Ayanda Skari was there, the late Sopazi was there, great drummer. And they were laughing that I came to the audition. They were like, "Why didn't you just phone?" Because I knew them. I was like, "No, I had to do it the right way." But meeting Tandiswa was like a mind. Phew. More recently, I met CV Wanda, and I think after that I felt like, okay, get sharp. No, I think if the Lord takes me now, get sharp. I met him in the most dingy, not a, it wasn't a dingy coffee shop, but it was in a dingy place. It was like, it's not a shiny place, neighborhood. You don't expect to bump into Stevie Wonder there. And I was watching a duo, jazz drummer and saxophonist playing together, guys I met that side in LA. And then he just walked in with his people. It wasn't even like a huge entourage. It was just like a security guard and I think his his children. And I was like, "Hey man, is this Stevie Wonder?" And it was like, now we were about to leave, And I'm like, no, we can't leave. I know he's sitting there having a good time, but there's no way. And I remember SMSing my family group. I was like, guys, Stevie Wonder just walked into the place. And my sister said, don't talk to us if the next message is not a picture. Okay. They were like, no, don't even come home if you don't have you can forget it. So now I'm trying to be respectful because I'm like, the guy's probably just coming out to have a good time, but we need a photo, my brother. We need a photo. So then we eventually spoke to the guy who I think was the security guy. He came to the bar. That's where we were sitting. And then we were like, yo, I know the guy's probably chilling, but please can we meet him? We're from South Africa. Hi guys, Africa opens doors for you. And he's like, oh yeah, no, from the motherland, yeah, for sure. I'll speak to him after the concert, blah blah blah. We'll definitely love to meet people from the motherland. And I was like, yes, motherland. And then we eventually met him and we spoke. He's so humble. Now that I think just meeting him was a masterclass for me because he was there at this gig. He had an instrument that he went to the band and he thanked them for the music. And he was like, oh man, love your music. I was gonna jam, but I'm feeling a little bit tired. He was gonna jam. And I was like, Stevie Wonder was gonna jam with the random people. Okay, fine. And again, for me, that's the master class. It's like this guy is a master at what he does. There's no flaw in what he does, but he's still learning from other musicians, and he still loves music. Like it was a joy to watch him listening to the people because he was just enjoying it so much. And I was like, this is what it is. This is what it's about. To still love the music at a point where you could just be like, don't need to hear anything, and we would agree with you. But yeah, it was just such a beautiful lesson for me just to remember that, hey, doesn't matter how big you are, you can always love music, you can always appreciate other artists. Yeah, it was incredible.
And I remember you said something that stayed with me for some time, for the longest of time. You said that you don't get why people who feel that they are talented feel that they are better than other people. I mean, we are all talented, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just talent, really. It's what we love to do. It's what we are gifted with. It doesn't it doesn't make us any better, than the next person.
It's something someone else is more talented at than you.
Exactly.
And yeah, and again, it's also that thing of knowing that lots of times people will look at you, they're like, hey Mipra, you're so talented, and it's like, yeah, true, but you work hard. And you are aware of yourself that, like, I know my talent didn't get me here. My talent was the beginning, but it's the hard work that got me to where I am. So it's okay to respect anyone who works hard, on what they do, because a person who is doing a great thing at their job as an accountant is working hard.
Yeah.
And so because it's not a talent that we celebrate or that gets put on TV and billboards and that gets many followers on Instagram, it doesn't mean you're any less important than someone else,
True.
Because when I'm doing my text, I am very appreciative of a talented accountant. You see what I mean? So I think that's where it comes from.
For sure. I'm gonna ask you to grab your phone. I'm sending you a first picture that I wish that I would like you to explain this pic, right? So first picture on WhatsApp. What's happening here?
Oh, hey, this was at Kaya FM. This was a performance with the Moving Circles. What is it called? The Moving Circles Orchestra.
We can say that. We can put it like that. Yeah. But if you zoom into that picture, can you see what's happening there?
I'm looking at the piano. I don't know what's happening with my hands because they don't look like I'm playing.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what's happening with your hands. You were putting on nail polish.
You think you have friends, then they expose you on.
And let's just get to another picture that I'm sending to you now. But is it a thing that you always want to look good on stage? You want to feel good?
Yes, of course, especially because people are always taking pictures.
Sure.
No, the nail polish one started. My cousin saw a performance of me playing. I think it was one of the TV shows, Afro Cafe or something, and then they zoomed in into my nails. And then when she saw me, she's like, "Hey, Tandy, please, 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 ungaslazi. Do your nails, please." Then the camera goes into your hands, and we see these hands that are chipped and no nail. But please, Tandy, please, please respect us. And I was like, ever since then, I was like, okay.
Okay. All right. You've got another picture now. What was happening here?
This was in Swaziland. We were performing with Rebirth of Cool at it's not Bushfire, it's the other one, Luju Festival. Happened in August, and we were within Meriteng. Yeah, so that's a very fun band. So a lot of the times the spirit takes over.
Yeah, I love that. I love you've got so many of these moments when you're on stage and you are just in your zone. Let me know about this one that I just sent to you now. What's happening there?
Love this picture. Yes, this was so it was Rebirth of Cool as well, but we were preparing for a concert at the Lyric Theatre. Lyric Theatre, the one in Gold Reef.
Yes.
Yeah, with Dumi, Stogie T. So this was an interview at Kai FM promoting that gig. And you see this combination of people, there's always laughing. Stogie, I don't know who it was. Someone said something, and just before the picture, we all cracked up laughing. So that's what was happening.
Cool. I like that. I've got two more. What's happening in this picture?
Ooh, I also love this photo. This is one of the things when my personality comes out. But this was at Market Theatre. I remember July 2018, part of a series called Jazzy July. And yeah, no, the audience, like I said, the audience is the thing that you can't plan for it, but somebody in the audience probably said something that cracked me up. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, and this photo was taken by Tidiso Monaheng, who's a great photographer. He always catches me in those moments that are hard to catch, and I suppose because he knows me as well.
Yeah.
But he's a great, yeah.
Okay. Last picture that I'm sending to you now. What's happening there?
We are within. Yeah, I think what was happening is we were sound checking, no?
Yeah.
And I was probably having an exchange with Sims because we're always having exchanges with Teha and all those things. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I also know this song, Gazano. This song, you tricked me because I didn't know this song until the end of the album. And I was like, remember when I first heard it, I was like, what's happening here? I was obsessed with this song. So I think it was still very fresh for me. And we were within.
No, we were definitely within. I think that moment Zano had just opened with the line, "Take me to the light," and you were just like, "Oh my goodness," you know.
I was like, let's go.
Yeah. Okay, so we're done with the picks. Just on my last two questions. Besides being, you know, your besides being a badass musician that you are, what else moves your spirit right now?
What else moves my spirit? Currently, I think maybe let me say two things. In my personal life, my focus has been very much internal, doing internal work. If people have listened to my past album, Exiled, all my things are very autobiographical. So thus far. And Exile made me the process of that whole album writing, it made me very aware of how many people in the world are hurt and are perpetuating more and more hurt towards other people, you know. I was moved at the time about, you know, I forgot Karabo Mokoena, the lady who was killed by her partner. And this was just this is something that is recurring in South Africa, hearing about more women who get raped or killed, and coming to understand that this is also a product of our painful past and whatever. So I think for me, I've seen it as an important thing for each individual in this country, but obviously doing it for myself to heal the parts of myself that are not healed, just to make sure that we don't keep perpetuating the things that we've been seeing in our society. So that's been inspiring me internally in my own space. Externally, I think because of the virus, I've been kind of trying to find ways. You know, I think this virus is bringing a beautiful opportunity for us to really address the ways things have been done and to decide, like, after Corona, do we want things to be the same? And one of the things that I'm loving is, like, for example, this conversation that we're having now. Yes, okay, we are collaborators, but we as musicians, this is bringing the house world and the jazz world into the same space. I'd love to see more flowing between, you know, like moving outside of cliques. I'd love to see more working together as artists. I think coronavirus and all the things that have come up have shown me that it's very easy in this time for people to continue to exploit musicians the way that they have, because we are all working in our own singular existence. But it's a very important thing for me to start thinking about unionizing, and not necessarily in a political sense and mobilizing the government, but even then, you know, I think we're seeing that we as an industry have just been not taken care of, and there's no plan for us. So it's just gotten me thinking about how can we start doing what we do for the collective industry and not just for ourselves as artists.
I love that. I love that so much, and I hope we can expand in those various ways. How we can creatively come up with ways, you know, to move ourselves forward. Because, like you said, nobody's coming to save us. You know, like
No.
especially not the government. No one is really coming to save us, and it's really up to us to kind of figure out our own ways of doing this and just get on with it. Um,
So,
just one quick question, if you could answer this as quick as possible. Like, the biggest event that you've played at, what is that big event, and what is it about, like having masses and masses of people being, you know, listening to you on stage?
it's the energy again. I mean, I don't know if it's the biggest, but one of the most memorable was when we played a tribute concert at the Art Alive in Johannesburg, and we were the backing band for various artists, Tate Vusi Mahlasela, and now the late Oliver Mtukudzi. That was magical for me. I have a little clip that I keep going to when I think of that experience of playing his music and receive, like, he's hardly singing it, the audience is singing it. It's like electricity. I don't know how to explain it, but that has been one of the most magical.
Sure. One of my biggest events that I wish I want to get into to playing on in the house music space is definitely the Spring Fiesta. And tomorrow I've got Ricardo da Costa from Spring Fiesta. You know, they do the biggest house music event in the country, and they do a lot of stages, but they've got this massive stage with about 10,000 people. And I'm really looking forward to chatting to him tomorrow. So people, if you are listening to this, tune in again tomorrow. But Thandi, I want to say to you, thank you so much for spending this time and doing this with me. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, we need to get on with that new song, comrade. Please.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. Coming soon. Yeah, no. Anyway, thank you once again. I think you are an inspiration, you know, for me because of your work ethic and just how even after working so hard, even after the achievements that you've achieved, you still remain a nice person, you still remain humble. And this is a factor that I want to promote with this show as well, that you can become successful and you can become this super artist and still be a nice person that you are. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Yeah, everyone who's watching, thank you for watching this. And if you know somebody who could learn from the conversation, please tag them in the comments, share the video, and let's share the knowledge. And remember to always be creative, guys. Peace out.